How's it going, Dopamon fans? We are here. The thing hockey fans live for, the Stanley Cup Finals, between the back-to-back champions, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the common favorite to win the cup the past few years, the Colorado Avalanche. These probably the two best teams over the past few years, and we're here to drop a finals series playoff preview for you guys, talk about the teams, compare them, and give our predictions at the end.
Yeah, and let us know your predictions down below, and if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in hockey content, that'd be really great. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers.
So we're going to start off with the tail of the tape for the Colorado Avalanche, who I think for them really the story has been offense. That 65 goals for them is incredible. They've really paved the way, in my opinion, just outscoring every single team that they outpowering, out just performing, and throughout the regular season it was the same. They were third in goals for. The 40 goals against, of course, you have to take some consideration that they played Edmonton, so a lot of goals against are going to be scored against them. But their power play is improved. The 31.1% is incredible, almost one third of the power plays they score on. Their PK hasn't been great, the penalty kill at 75.7, and their face-off, I think, at almost around 50%. You can kind of ignore that personally. I think that's a kind of a whatever.
It has a little bit of merit. I like the face-off win percentage. But they're too close. These two teams are too close, especially in the play. Like they're both under 50% in the playoffs. So,
yeah, they both suck.
Not,
so it's not much
probably
of
doesn't
a
matter
story.
too much. We'll see.
And I'm sure there's people that get really into the analytics that depending on where the face-offs are won are really more important. If they're winning the defensive zone ones, the offensive zone ones, then losing the neutral zone ones, sometimes they balance out at 50. But the importance of whatever, that is something that can be explored by somebody else. And the record for the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're 52 goals. That's impressive as well. 41 goals against in the playoffs. Their power play has been a little bit lower than it was during the regular season, but 22.6 is still pretty good for a power play. Their PK has been pretty good as well, 82.5%. And of course, their face-off, we think it matters a little bit less because they both suck. At 46.7, which is actually down a lot. It's dropped, I think, throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, they've had some tough face-off matchups, but yeah, both teams evenly matched on paper.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to put a little bit of an asterisk as well. You mentioned the goals against for Colorado, but the goals for Colorado, I would put an asterisk there too, considering the first series was Nashville, and I think they scored 7 goals twice.
Yeah.
And obviously the Edmonton series was all over the place. So I think they're a little bit more even in the goals for category than you might expect, considering Tampa Bay has played some really solid goaltending in the last little bit.
And speaking of these teams being close, the season head-to-head, they only played each other twice, but it was close. Both teams, both times was a very, very, very close games, with Colorado taking the first one in overtime, October 23rd, and then 5 months later in February, Colorado winning again 3-2 in regulation. So I don't think, of course Colorado won both, but I don't think it gives too much of, an indication that one team's better than the other. If anything, I'd say they're on paper pretty equal.
Yeah, and the overtime in regular seasons, obviously 3-on-3. We're not going to have that in the playoffs, so that overtime win by Colorado, you can kind of a little bit of an asterisk there. And yeah, like a 1-goal game each time is going to be close.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about some of the top scorers in Colorado, really leading the way from the back end. Cale Makar, 17 assists. Oh my god, right? And in 14 games, 17 assists. More assists than games played is always just like an indicator that that's more than a hot streak. It's just pure skill. And Cale Makar, I know we don't have him winning the James Norris, but I think it could be argued that he might be the most skilled outright defenseman in the NHL, probably in the world right now.
Yeah, I'd say so. He's got the most dynamic presence on the back end anybody in the NHL. 100%. He's the defensive version of Connor McDavid. You never know what this guy's going to do, and his ability, especially with his skating, it puts him apart for, separates him from a guy like who is also very good, Victor Hedman on Tampa's side, who's no slouch in and of itself, but they're just so different in the way that they skate. And Cale Makar, obviously 22 points, 14 games, that's nuts.
And leading the team in goals, Nathan MacKinnon, who has really, 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 really stepped up, in my opinion. When we talk about the asterisk next to that goals for, I don't know, like he has shown he's earned that 11 goals and really leading his team. And as far as I think, right from the start, I said Colorado's kind of got this way by just outscoring and outperforming and just outskilling their opponents, and he's been a big, big, big reason why he has just been able to turn it on and go end to end with the puck and score. And I think he's gonna be have to be a big factor again.
Yeah, historically big playoff performer, has done it the last couple years. Turns it on when needs to, like any superstar needs to do. And some good depth on this team as well. You want to talk about anyone else specifically on this list?
I think a guy who's gone kind of underrated for a long time, Devon Toews.
Yeah.
This defensive defenseman kind of go. He's been a partner to Cale Makar and a perfect partner, in my opinion. And Makar has been leading the way offensively, and a lot of that has to do with Toews backing him up defensively. Cale Makar is good in his own right defensively, but it's a two-man job, and they've been doing really good together. In the 13 points in 14 games, it's he doesn't usually score that much, but he has earned them, and he's played very, very well, very, very well.
Yep, some underrated trade deadline acquisitions on Colorado here as well. Arturi Lehkonen, 11 points in 14 games, had the series winning goal in overtime the other day, his sixth the playoffs. He's almost a point per game. Josh Manson picked up a little earlier from the trade deadline. He's been playing really well for them. Just their depth is so good, and I think they're only equaled in their depth by the team that they're facing.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Another team that kind of they both are able to roll four lines. It's not a top six, bottom six situation. All four lines are killer, top, incredible amounts of skill, and they're going to score on you. So, yep. But leading the way for the Tampa Bay Lightning, Nikita Kucherov, 7 goals and 16 assists in 17 games, 23 points. That's incredible. Personally, there are times throughout the playoffs that I've thought he's been a little bit lazy, kind of not putting a full effort in, looking a little bit whatever about it.
He's that kind of player, though.
Right, but that's the thing, you watch him do that one game, and then, you're trying to be mad at him, and then the next game he comes out and scores, and he is incredible, and he really steps up to the plate, and I feel like that's, in every series so far, I've seen him do that. I was going to make the comment in the Toronto series that if Kucherov doesn't, pick up his slack a little bit, that, they're going to lose this, and then he really did in the second half of that series, and same every time that he hasn't really been good. The next game he's come out and proven me wrong, and I really like that about him, and he deserves that at 23 points. That's incredible.
Yeah, another one of the most underrated players on this team and of his generation, especially on the wing here, is Andre Palat. That dude, he's so good. He's so underrated. And he's such a killer in the playoffs. One of his best series I've ever seen him play was against the Leafs, and last series as well against the Rangers. He's incredible. Steven Stamkos, obviously, and then all the depth that they have down here.
I hate to use the common hockey term, but Palat's hockey IQ might be one of the highest in the NHL right now, because it's remarkable. He reads the game so well, and he's just got that winning mentality. And yeah, like you said, Steven Stamkos leading in goals for the Tampa Bay Lightning as well.
Yeah, we're more spread out here, I think, than Colorado is. Colorado's got a lot more balanced scoring, but the big guys leading the way for Tampa.
And I always have to mention, I really like Tampa's third line of the wing Hagel and Perry, and down the middle Nick Paul, because I am a huge fan of Nick Paul. I'm an Ottawa fan. I warned teams at the trade deadline to trade for Nick Paul. He is going to win you the Stanley Cup, and here he is in the finals. And I warned you. I warned everybody.
Yep,
Can't say I didn't. And he is incredible. He beat the Leafs in Game 7. He's
he did.
in every series. He is probably the name I've heard the most that isn't Kucherov, Flat, Stamkos, Hedman. Like that isn't a star player. And I think at the very beginning of our previews and stuff, you made the comment: who's gonna be the third line guy that helps that there's always one that is the guy that kind of whoever he is that like wins the playoffs for their team. And I think it's going to be Nick Paul in this series. That's if there's going to be one for Tampa, it's going to be him.
Yeah, the Nick Paul Ross Colton effect on this team is incredible. Brendan Hagel obviously is that third part of that line. Corey Perry getting in there too. He has 5 goals seemingly on the fourth line, and a guy like Patty Maroon, even just 3 goals in 17 games, but big addition down there, and going for his 4th consecutive Stanley Cup, because he was on the St. Louis Blues prior to. And big question mark in this series is down on the bottom part of this list, and we've heard things back and forth, is Braden Point and his availability. Apparently, according to John Cooper, he will be back at some point in this series. So we'll see. I thought his playoffs were done when he got what re-aggravated that, I guess it was his hip injury in the Toronto series. But if he can come back, that is a huge addition for this team, and it might put them over the edge.
Yeah, Tampa's gone 2 full series without him now. They've done a good job adjusting. And now add Braden Point? Come on, it's scary. And of course, you mentioned Corey Perry earlier. This is his 3rd playoff finals in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, 3rd time's a charm, because he has lost in the past 2.
To Tampa.
Dallas said. To Tampa, both times. So
he'll lose this year and then go to Colorado, and then Colorado will lose to Tampa.
Yeah, if you can't beat them, join them, right? That's Corey Perry's thinking, I guess. He couldn't beat Tampa twice. He's like, well, I guess that's the team I need to be on, and he's another guy I think could be a third line hero.
Yeah, absolutely. Biggest part of this series, though, I think. The players are important, and your top guys got to do it for you, but goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't talked about goaltending yet.
No.
What do you think about this?
It starts with Andrei Vasilevsky, in my opinion. That's the big question. I mean, the big like point for I want to start with, because he has been the best goaltender in the world for a few years now. And I have his save percentage on the screen of every playoff series over the past 3 years, and of every cup they've won. 930, 935, 933, 911, 929, 940, 940, 943, 897. First time he's under 900.
Yeah.
981 against Florida, and then 902 against the Rangers. This looks like a hot streak. We talked about this earlier. It looks like, in a 10-11 game hot streak for a goalie where he just plays on fire and wins 10 games. But, this is over 3 years.
This is quite a long time. And, man, look at that 2021 year, dude. That's disgusting. He was never below a 929. Mm-hmm. Oh, my Lord. That's not good. Yeah, I can look at these numbers all day.
You can just you look at them and you're like, no, this can't be real. Go check them.
Yeah, the biggest part about this series for me, and it's Colorado hasn't seen a guy like this yet.
No,
Colorado had an injured UC Saros, so they got Connor Ingram and David Riddick, who were not good. They got both Husso and Binnington in the series against St. Louis. Binnington was good. He picked it up. and they got the ghost of Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen in Edmonton, who were all over the place. Colorado hasn't run into a goalie yet. Tampa has. Tampa's run into 3 that I would consider better than what Colorado has run into. Tampa has run into Jack Campbell, who had a really, really good series considering that he was going up against Tampa. Timely saves and all that. Bob, sorry, I forgot.
Sergei Bobrovsky.
Sergei Bobrovsky, who played out of his mind at times, and the guy who's going to win the Vezina is nominated for the Hart, Igor Shesterkin. So he's out. Vasilevsky's already outdueled all these guys. The weakest goaltender on that list, you probably say, is Jack Campbell, but even him, like I'd take over David Riddick. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, and we did mention, I think, prior that Darcy Kemper is fully healthy, apparently.
According to Joe Sakic.
We're going to assume that he's going to start game 1. He's their number 1. He's been hurt kind of throughout this playoffs a number of times, so his save percentage doesn't reflect how he's been played, I don't believe. It was .897.
He's been a little bit better than that number, for sure.
Yeah, and Francouz has been good in his absence at a .906, but because he was in that Edmonton series a lot of the time, his numbers a little skewed. So I think the goaltending is closer than you think, but there's a huge edge to Tampa as a whole here.
I don't know. This is not a decision that I would want to make as a coach. Which goalie do you start? The one that, is Kemper 100%, really for sure? I have to assume that Joe Sakic saying he is the, that's the guy we want, but, what if, that could cost you game 1 if, hey, he's not 100%, the guy's injured, the guy isn't ready, and, Tampa's such a strong team. I don't know, that's very scary, and, I could probably go back to, the power play and the PK for Colorado. The penalty kill at 75.7, that's not great. And then the Tampa Bay, the 22.6 that power play is pretty good. It's not as good as the 31.1 in Colorado, but their Tampa's power play is pretty strong, and they might run into they could have a series where their power play really lights up, and it hasn't been. I wrote down it was 15 power plays that they had against the New York Rangers. They only scored twice, 2 times in one game, so it hasn't been hot, but it has a chance to light up. And if they give Colorado gives Tampa Bay's power play a chance to score 1, that might spark something, and then all of a sudden they're Kemper and Francouz, neither of them can handle the high power offense of Tampa, while Vasilevsky, just a wall in net that Colorado hasn't faced yet. I think it could be a kind of a question mark for Colorado, because that's it.
Yeah, it's the biggest part of any series is goaltending, especially in the final. So Colorado's goal, whoever it is, I'm going to assume that if Kemper's playing, he's healthy. So because Francouz, like you say, he's been decent, so I have to assume that Kemper will be all right. Can he match Andrei Vasilevsky? He might have to, especially if this series gets later and later. So we'll see. It's the biggest part of any series is goaltending, and oh my God, it's come down to it here for both teams.
So your prediction? What are you gonna say, Ryan?
My prediction is I'm gonna stick with the prediction I made all the way back at the start of the playoffs.
Okay.
My bracket, as it stands right now, has Colorado and Tampa in the final. My bracket has me having Colorado in 7 games, and I'm going to stick with that. Now, I don't know how confident I am in that, because if this series gets to 7 games, that's tough to do against Andrei Vasilevsky historically. But I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna say Colorado just has a little bit of an edge in their group. They're a little bit deeper. They're a little bit more healthy right now. I think they're gonna end Tampa's streak.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna go with Tampa. I, I like your 7. I think I want to agree in 7 that if it goes to 7, Tampa's gonna take it. I feel like I would have to agree. Colorado probably has more firepower, and they've gotten to this point using their firepower to like overpower teams, and they're gonna reach a goalie that they're scoring. That mentality of trying to overpower might not work. And how Tampa got here was by adjusting. Were backed into a corner against the Leafs a little bit. They lost the first 2 games against the Rangers and then came back to win 4 in a row. This is a team that's like hot. They learn, they watch their opposing team, they adjust. And as much as the scoring depth isn't there, I feel like there's a strong, maybe more of a defensive depth that like a winning mentality that they're gonna come and even if they lose the first 2 games, they could come back and win the next 4, and that they're just gonna completely shut down the team that they're facing. And I think that that's how they got here, and I think that that kind of rock paper scissors might be the weakness to Colorado and their streak this year of being so strong offensively. So yeah, that's my prediction. Tampa in 7. I still think Colorado's gonna give them the fight of their life. If any team can beat Tampa, it's gonna be Colorado, because Tampa's been undefeated this point so far through the past 2 seasons and possibly 3 now. So yeah.
A big thing that I want to mention too that I didn't really mention, or we didn't really mention here, is Colorado's got 10 days off.
Yeah, a lot longer
between
break.
series. And during the interview, like that can be good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed during the post-game interview from Game 6 of the Tampa New York series, Stamkos came out and said like, "Hey, that break affected us a little bit. We didn't come out flying. We lost those first 2 games." The thing with that series is they lost the 2 games to the Rangers in Madison Square Garden and were able to come home, regroup, and go. But if Colorado loses 1 or even 2 of their games, their first 2 games at home, and has to go back to Tampa 0-2, that's not good.
Mm-mm.
So they have to shake off the rust early. There's going to be a little rust. I think they have the ability to. They're young and they're quick. They have great skaters. I think they'll come out flying. But if they don't, that's a huge problem for Colorado.
Yeah, my prediction for that, Tampa's also gonna get a little bit of a break, and I think both teams have a chance to come out just a little bit rusty, and maybe it might even out in the first, like by the second, third period of the game, they might have the speed and pacing might have caught up. Maybe the score's one-sided towards, for Tampa or something, but I feel like both teams might be affected by that just a little bit. But we'll see. I definitely agree it's going to be a huge factor. Rest is something that coaches have to, manage and take care of. It's something they think about all season, and in the playoffs, it is that much more important. And unless you have any other point to make,
I'm done.
That is all for us. We are Dopamon. Thank you so much for watching along. We talk hockey news, analysis. We have tons of stuff going on for the draft. Stick around for that if you're a fan of the draft. We are. And of course, playoff coverage. We're going to be around, to probably recap it after, maybe do a live stream. So stick around, hit that like, hit subscribe, and drop your predictions down below. Peace.